So we've got this identity, and I'm going to work with the left side again here because it's going to be really hard to get this thing on the right side to look like something to the fourth power. So anytime I see powers, I'm thinking, can I factor? Now we've got the following. If I've got a to the fourth minus b to the fourth, and I want to factor that, that's a difference of squares. So this is really a squared minus b squared times a squared plus b squared. And then of course this thing can factor as well, so we're going to do that here. So here's what I've got. I've got sine squared beta plus cosine squared beta, that thing times sine squared beta minus cosine squared beta. Remember, I want to make it look like this thing over here. So that means I've got to get rid of all of my cosines. Well, how can I get rid of cosine and make it into sine? Okay, so when you're working these problems, think about what you're trying to get in the long run. I'm trying to get just sine, but here I've got a cosine and here I got a cosine, so I've got to get rid of the cosines. So what formula do I know that relates sine and cosine? Well, I know that the sine squared of an angle plus the cosine squared of that angle is equal to 1, which means that if I want to get rid of the cosines, I've got the following. The cosine squared of the angle is equal to 1 minus the sine squared of the angle. So what I'm going to do is this chunk right here, I'm going to insert it wherever I see a cosine squared over here. So I've got sine squared beta plus, there's my first cosine, so it's going to be 1, we want to do 1 minus sine squared. Just like that. And then I'm going to have sine squared beta again, minus, and there it is again, 1 minus sine squared beta. So let's start dropping these parentheses here. So this is, look, I've got a sine squared beta here, okay, and a negative sine squared beta there. So this first thing, the only thing that's left, these two guys are going to cancel out, and I'm just left with 1. So I've got 1 over here. This is 1, and then multiplied by. Now, let's look at this. Let's distribute this negative. So it's going to be sine squared beta minus 1 plus sine squared beta. So 1 times anything is just that thing. So I'm going to get rid of the 1 here now. And now notice I've got sine squared plus another sine squared gives me 2 of those. So I've got 2 sine squareds. And I still have this minus 1. And that's what I was trying to get to. So my approach this time was to use factoring, which you've seen before in 1314 and in 310, so you've seen that a lot. So I used my ability to factor, and then I said I needed to get it to look like something with only signs. And to do that, I used the Pythagorean identity, solved one side, so that I had just cosine by itself, because that's what I wanted to get rid of over here, okay? And then I made my substitution into the spots here and here. So what I want you to notice here is that on all 3 of these trig problems, I've used different techniques to solve them. Okay, so are these the only way to solve them? Absolutely not. There's a lot of other ways to do it, but you'll get used to seeing some of these tricks and also thinking of some of them on your own as well. Make sure you use all of your identities when possible.